Alright, today we're going to do scale models and drawings. The definition of a scale model or drawing: it's used to represent an object that is too large or too small to be built at actual size. So a scale is determined by the ratio of the given length on the model to the corresponding length on the actual object. So what I'm talking about is 1 inch on the model airplane is actually, like, this might be 3 feet on the actual airplane, or 20 feet on the actual airplane. Okay, that's the scale. Or a map. Okay, one inch on the map is actually 100 miles in real life. Those are for ones that are too large to be put. Okay, but how about ones that are too small? Okay, so 1 centimeter might be 2 millimeters on, like, an ant or something like that. They make a large ant. They make a model of an ant. Okay, ants aren't very big, so to show features, to show an example of it, they make it larger. So 1 centimeter on the model ant might be 2 millimeters in real life. You need to write this down. Alright, so the model of a dragonfly has a wingspan of 4 centimeters. If the length of the insect's actual wing is 6 centimeters, what's the scale? What we're going to do, and what you should write down every time, is model over actual. And then keep it that way. So write the dimensions of the model. The model is 4 centimeters. The actual length is 6 centimeters. So the model is actually smaller than the actual dragonfly. What we're doing to find the scale is we're going to find 1 centimeter of the model. It's always going to be 1 on top. We're going to find the actual length. So we need to find out for every 1 centimeter, how many centimeters is the actual. So that's going to be our x. We're going to use the ratio they gave us to find the scale, which is 1 over a number. So what we do is we cross multiply like yesterday. 4x is equal to 6. I divide both sides by 4. So x equals 1.5 centimeters.
So take 4 times 6?
So my scale, if I was to write it out, would be 1 centimeter over 1.5 centimeters. Write the units here because they might not always be the same. Later on we're going to talk about scale factor, which doesn't have units. But here, these units might not always be the same. Okay, this on the bottom, it could have been meters or feet or something like that. So for 1 centimeter, it's 1.5 centimeters on the actual. Any questions? It said pillars of a monument are 7 feet tall. The scale of that monument, those pillars are 5 inches tall. So we always go model over actual. The model is 5 inches. The pillar of the actual is 17 feet. We set that equal to a ratio of 1 on top because I want to know for every inch how many feet is the pillar. So we always go with 1. X is going to be the bottom number because I don't know how many feet the actual is. So I cross multiply. 5 times x is equal to 17. So I divide both of the sides by 5. Okay. X is equal to, when you do 17 divided by 5, 3.4. So the scale, when you write it out, 1 inch is 3.4 feet. Inches are on top, feet on bottom. Okay, keep inches with your model, keep feet with your actual. If the scale drawing and model have the same unit measure, the scale can be written without units. And this is what we call scale factor. If you go to Hobby Lobby and you look at all their model airplanes and cars, most of them will have something written on the side of the box like this. This is a common scale factor. What this means is for 1 inch of the model, it's 27 inches on the actual. They don't write units because they're the same units. So that's a scale factor. So when you're working with different units, okay, when they're not asking for a scale factor, you just leave it. Like the problem before, it was 1 inch was 3.4 feet. This, however, you're getting rid of the units by changing to the same unit. So if they say find the scale factor of 1 inch equals 2 feet, You write 1 inch over 2 feet. And what you're going to do is you're going to change them to the same unit. Which one's smaller, inches or feet? Inches. So 1 inch is 2 feet. We're going to write that in inches. But how many inches are in a foot? 12. So I take 12 times 2, and I change 2 feet to 24 inches. Then I can get rid of the unit. 1 over 24, they'll also write it like this. I will take either answer. So the scale factor here, 1 inch is 24 inches. It's the same thing as 1 inch is every 2 feet. But that is how they would write like a model airplane. Alright, on certain problems you're going to be asked to find the scale factor. You have 4 inches equals 5 feet. So you write it as a proportion or a ratio. You're changing it to the smaller unit, which most of the time that will be on top, but not always. What's the smaller unit here, inches or feet? Inches. So I'm going to change 5 feet to inches. So I look in the back book, I find that 12 inches per foot. So 5 times 12, 60. Inches would cancel. I have 4 over 60. But that's not my answer because I can reduce this. Usually you'll try and get 1 on top. Okay? Which I can divide both of these by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 60 divided by 4 is 15. So my scale factor is 1 over 15 or 1/15. Those are my two answers. I'll take either. Alright? 2 centimeters to 10 meters. Which one's larger, centimeters or meters? Meters. So what you got to do is look in the back of the book and figure out how many centimeters are a meter. There's 100 of them. 100 centimeters is equal to a meter. So I take 100 times 10, which is 1,000. I don't need to worry about centimeters anymore. They're both centimeters. So I just reduce it. 2 out of 2 is 1. 2 out of 1,000 is 500. So my scale factor is 1 over 500. So this, okay, is going to ask you to find the width of the actual room. The first problem we did in your notes was to find the scale. So we wrote model over actual and we went 1 over x and solved for x. The last couple problems we did was finding a scale factor, which we just reduced the units, got rid of the units by changing them to the same units, and then reduced it. This one is you're going to find what is the width of the actual room. So again, we go model over actual. The model or the scale is 1 inch. The model of the actual or the actual is 8. So the scale of the model to actual is 1 over 8. It tells you that. 8 feet, you're right. What we're going to do is we're going to set up the proportion to figure out what the width of the actual. So the actual is x. It says the room is 7.25. So we just set proportion like we did all day yesterday. We cross multiply. 1 times x is just x. 7.25 times 8 comes out to 58. You need to think about the units. Okay, model is in inches, the actual is in feet. So this is 58 feet. And there's my answer. You're going to have to do that for several different problems. Finding the width or length of a certain room. Okay, you just set proportion. Always do model over actual. Now there's another way of setting it up to where the ratios, this would be model and over here would be actual, but I found that most find this easier. If you want to know the other way, I'll tell you. But for most people, this is the easiest way of doing it. Go model over actual every time. Okay? Here's your assignment.